Hey there, YouTube. OmegaCheeze here, bringing you a Hearthstone Battlegrounds update. We've got a ton of nerfs and a ton of buffs. Let's get into it. So, getting things started off here, we've got the Boogie Monster and Mechano Egg both being moved from 5 stars down to 4 stars. I think this is a great change. They both felt pretty bad at 5 stars. Boogie Monster really wasn't something that you really picked up unless you absolutely had garbage picks on 5 stars. It was just something that would fill in for one or maybe two rounds. Nothing really exciting. It's a 6/7 body, never really got big. So that's really good. I like to see it. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if it got removed from the game. It's really not that strong. Mechano Egg, on the other hand, I think this is a great change. 5 stars was really, really high for such a weak minion when it first hits the board. You really want to get this buffed up or changed to a triple. That way you get the better death rattle from it. So I do like the change going from 4 stars from 5 stars down to 4 stars. So I think this is going to be really impactful. The meta is really shaken up, and I think this is going to be that really strong taunt Divine Shield. Could possibly be the taunt Divine Shield that Mech goes towards. And I'll explain a little further why in just a second. We have the Beast. The Beast was 4 stars, and again, it was just like Boogie Monster. Felt really bad when you were on 4 stars. They moved it down to 3 stars, and this is really interesting because it's never something that you really bring into the late game because its death rattle is bad for you. If this dies, it's bad for you. But it's so many stats that sometimes if you got a 4 star that was early enough and you didn't have good rolls, the Beast could make a big impact on your board. Now you can get that a whole tier earlier. 3 stars for a 9/7. That's really, really powerful. I think this is going to make a huge impact. Just think AFK can get 2 of these on turn 3. Nothing can beat 2 of these on turn 3. I can't imagine any possible strategy where that happens. Obviously, if one dies, there's a huge downside to that, but it's still going to be a really nice tempo play to really spike through from the early to mid game. So I'm really excited. Next up here, we've got Primal Fin Lookout. This was changed last week. There was no patch notes on it, so this shouldn't be too much news for people who have been staying up on the game. But they moved it back from 4 stars to 5 stars. It originally got a buff weeks and weeks ago to give Murlocs a boost. Now Murlocs were way, way too powerful. They were everywhere. If you've seen my videos, that's really the only strategy that was very viable for a little bit of time. So really happy to see that they made this change as well as the next change here, bringing Cold Light Seer back to 3 stars. So both these Murlocs were changed. Cold Light Seer went down to 2 stars, and Primal Fin went down to 4 stars. I'm really happy to see that Blizzard realized that that wasn't good for the game. They made a mistake, and they reverted back on both of these changes. That's so, so impactful. The King Begurgle coming in really helped stabilize the Murloc package, and I really think that that was enough, especially with all these other changes. So I'm really happy with everything they've done so far with the game changing, the problems that they've created essentially by buffing Murlocs way too much. So this is really good. It's going to make Murlocs a lot harder to sustain that very early game, and especially building into that late game. Moving Primal Fin to 5 stars really gives you a bit of a gap from early game Murlocs to that late game transition, because there's not really that great of things on turn 3. You've only got the Cold Light Seer now, and turn 4 you've only got the Toxfin. So only having those one choices on those middle tiers is going to be a little tough for Murlocs to sustain into the late game, where they want to see, the Megasaurs and everything, so they can, go nuts. So moving on, here is the giant change. Nightmare Amalgam is no longer in the game. Completely removed. So let that sink in for a second. Amalgam was in every build. If you had a build, it had an Amalgam because it had Divine Shield, Taunt, Poisonous, could stack all the buffs in the world. Every single build had this. So now that that's not a thing, it's really going to shake up the meta. Beasts are no longer going to have this Taunt, Divine Shield craziness without splashing possibly a mech, or they just go without the Divine Shield because they're not going to be easily achievable on a beast. So this is a really, really impactful, and obviously it's not just the beast strategies that are going to see this. Mech is going to probably get a little bit stronger, I think, from where it was because they have that Divine Shield, they have that taunt, but also this is going to shake things up because you can now actually viably think of outside of the box plays. So things like the taunt build that has been out there where you just constantly cycle through taunt minions and buff your taunt minions. It was never really viable because Nightmare Amalgam was so strong. It wrecked all strategies. So this is going to change the way that tribals are put together. It's going to be a slight nerf on Light Fang because Light Fang is going to be a lot harder to hit these extra minions. But I've actually had a lot of success with Light Fang without having amalgams in the build. So I think it's going to be still very stable as far as running the Menagerie build. Now, where things do get strange is like Menagerie Magician, because that buffs a beast, a murloc, and then dead weight now. It doesn't buff a dragon. There's no dragon in the game. So that's going to be a little strange. I'm wondering if they're going to cycle in dragons eventually or what have you. But this also indirectly buffs Curator, who's already a really, really strong hero. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes up the meta. These changes are really going to be huge. Now, the last change we have here is going to be just the transition. They've been doing this every single time they have a patch. They're transitioning out the strongest hero of Brand Bronzebeard to Bartendotron. I never really thought Bartendotron was that weak to be transitioned out, so this is a good change. I've won a few matches with him, so I like to see that they brought him in. Bran was powerful, but he wasn't crazy powerful, and without the amalgam, I don't really see the battle cry strategy really popping off nearly as much as it used to. It's still going to be a very powerful strategy. So they are cycling him out and putting Bartendotron in. Another thing I do want to point out, because let me go back here, because the amalgam is out of the game, this sort of slightly, and let me say slightly, buffs Rafam a little bit if you have someone playing Curator who doesn't realize what they're doing, per se, because that allows Rafam to be the only other champion other than the Curator to get an Amalgam. Because if he ends up killing the Curator's Amalgam first, then he would have it. So that's just me thinking outside the box. It's something that could happen. It's not going to happen all the time. Every time you play Rafam, there's not always going to be a Curator in the room. There should be, because you should always pick Curator, I think. But it's going to be an interesting interaction. Um, so just beware if you are playing Curator and you're going against Rafam. Do something. Don't let him get your amalgam, because that's just going to snowball out of control. Keep your advantage to yourself. And that's going to be it for all these changes. I really hope you enjoy the video. And remember to hit that subscribe button and leave a like and a comment. I'd love to hear what you guys think.